wields none other than...
The Divan drill is in fact one of the items of all time. You can obtain it. A long time ago in a server not very far away called Hypixel, some admins decided to make it. It's apparently pretty good at breaking glass and sponges. But how does one obtain this mystical piece of enchanted prismarine? Well, it's quite simple. You only need the one alloy to rule them all and all of this. Two months ago, after a 2-year break, I decided I wanted a Divan's drill, although I first needed to figure out how to get it. So I opened up the wiki to learn how, but there was a lot of words and I'm not reading all that. So I opened up the item shop and I got myself a trusty old Ruby Drill TX15 that I couldn't even use. Maybe I should have read the wiki because apparently you need to invest experience into a mountains of vital organs, which gives you the strength to smack blocks with prismarine. Luckily, a group of 7 kings had a collection of jobs I could complete with my buddy that quickly leveled me up. Also, they allowed me to enter into the Crystal Hollows, which was an even fancier and larger mining area full of worms and very strong native people. Unfortunately, the drill I had purchased had something against a certain color, yellow, and it refused to mine it, so I had to upgrade to a more civilized and accepting drill that was a little bit more inclusive. With this drill, I could complete all the new tasks the Council of 7 Macho Kings had for me, and I was able to quickly climb the heart of the mountain tree. Except that I couldn't, because apparently if you go down deep enough, you start melting, so I had to go back to the item shop and buy an armor set that keeps me from heating up. That's entirely made out of flesh and blood of literal magma cubes. Around this time, I also learned that I could use another tool to aid me in my mining tasks that hopefully wouldn't result in PETA killing me in my sleep. Because apparently I can ride armadillos to instantly mine gemstones and other blocks. Well, that's until the armadillo is too exhausted to move and it collapses due to fatigue. Talk about animal cruelty. But even worse than that, as it turns out, the drill I had just gotten earlier wasn't inclusive either because it excluded the pink, although no one really likes the pink. But regardless, I decided to swap it out for a gemstone gauntlet to appeal to Twitter. I was already on PETA's watch list, so the Twitter mob joining in would not be fun. This gauntlet allowed me to remove stone blocks from existence with a snap of my fingers, or what you Hypixel nerds call insta-mining. Additionally, it didn't need fuel, so I didn't have to visit the mechanic very often. Actually, I didn't have to visit him at all, which was nice, because he was probably sick of me forcing him to fuel my drill without paying him. Which brings up a good question. Why exactly can't I fuel my drill myself? It can't be that hard, can it? Well, back to the matter at hand. After repeatedly pleasing all 7 kings over the span of 5 days, in more ways than one, they gave me their hearts, which allowed me to move on in my mining journey. So the first step towards obtaining the Divan drill had been completed. My account was now permanently displaying my magnificent skill at pleasing groups of men, but I was still very far from done. The Tears of the Heart of the Mountain had to be upgraded because apparently my love alone was not strong enough, so they needed to supplement it with an assortment of powder that may or may not be composed of highly addictive hallucinogens that often lead to homelessness and missing teeth. Luckily, I was quite familiar with this sort of business as I own a company that sells high quality powder. But unfortunately, I only sold white powder and they would only accept pink and green powder. Like, where do you even get pink and green powder? 1 second. Alexa, where do you get pink and green powder?
You get pink and green powder in treasure chests that happen to be literally everywhere underground, you idiot.
So actually, getting pink and green powder is pretty easy. You just need to open up treasure chests that happen to be literally everywhere underground. But that led me to another dilemma because the Crystal Hollows are divided into 4 sections which yield different items along with the powder inside of their treasure chests. In the Goblin holdouts, the goblins store their newborns in the treasure chests. The Precursor remnants, you get robot parts. In the Mithril deposits, you get treasurite. And in the jungle, you get ooey, sticky, juicy sludge. Obviously, being the man of culture that I am, I decided to embrace my inner Brazilian and clear out the jungle in order to fill my insides full of sludge. Now, obviously, there was another reason for this. The sludge actually has a large market of people that are willing to pay tons of money to get their hands on some thick green slime. And if I used a jungle pickaxe, I could further increase the amount of sludge I was able to get. So I was able to make nearly 4.5 million coins each hour selling the sludge, which was more profitable than any of the other locations at the time. Now, to anyone else powder grinding, I'm sure you can agree with me that the most fun thing you've ever done is powder grinding. Clearing out the jungle for 50 hours while filling your insides with sludge? Humor me in the comments if you can think of anything better than that. After opening the 9,246 treasure chest, and yes, I definitely counted, I had reached 4 million of each powder. Well, not exactly 4 million of each because for some reason I had 4.6 million gemstone powder once I reached 4 million mithril powder. But that's besides the point. I'd reached the recommended amount of powder before you start gemstone mining. I was also able to make roughly 200 or so million coins from the sludge, which allowed me to bind Divan boots with chambers and place all the gemstones inside, as well as a legendary bell pet to upgrade from my armadillo. I then found some public coordinates for rubies because the gemstones decide that they don't like being gone for more than 5 minutes, and I started mining. I routed the coordinates, I mined the gemstones, I sold the gemstones to the NPC, the lobby closed, I went back, I routed the coordinates, I mined the gemstones, I sold the gemstones to the NPC, the lobby closed, I bought new pants, I routed the coordinates, I mined the gemstones, some freaking hacker blew up my gemstones, I switched lobbies, I routed the coordinates, I mined the gemstones, and repeated, and then I did it again, and then I reset, and then I did it again, and then I reset, and then I bought a chest plate, and then I did it again, and I bought a helmet. And yeah, you get the point. I mined a lot of gemstones. And then I routed the coordinates, then I mined the gemstones, and I did it again until I could upgrade from my gemstone gauntlet to a 655. I was beat. I spent over 100 hours mining gemstones after already spending 80 hours preparing for it. But the moral of the story is, it doesn't matter how much it hurts. All that matters is the friends we made along the way. Actually, that makes no sense, but in 1 month, I had increased my net worth from 700 million to over 2 billion. Now, even though I had the 655, I was still far from done. I still needed to get the one alloy to rule them all, the Divan Alloy. The Divan Alloy is one of the rarest items in the game with a 1 in 8,000 drop chance at best from completing Nucleus Runs, which involve building a robot and stealing a big crystal inside of him, becoming Indiana Jones and jumping through a temple to steal a big crystal inside of it, feeding a goblin his children to become stinky and stealing a big crystal from his wife, using a metal detector to find lost tools and you give them to some dudes that drop their guards so you steal a big crystal from them, and abusing a big square until it becomes small so you can steal a big crystal from it. You then sacrifice these crystals to Divan himself and he gives you some treasure, or something like that. I don't actually know because you can also just buy it off the auction house for 1 billion coins, so I routed the coordinates, I mined the gemstones, I sold the gemstones. Ooh, what's that? Ooh, a giant sword. I want a giant sword. Yeah, I kind of got distracted and bought a giant sword, but don't worry, it didn't set me back because I bought it for 234 million coins, and when I realized I didn't actually want it because it wasn't actually giant, I resold it for a profit at 260 million coins. Like, why would anyone name a giant sword if it's not even giant? With that, and collecting my minions, I now had 1 billion coins, so I bought the Divan's Alloy and prepared for the final step. Having all the necessary materials to forge the Divan's drill, all I had to do was give them to this guy and pay him 50 million coins, which is a huge scam, so he could make it for me. The only problem is, he works really slowly and he wouldn't finish making it for another 2.5 days. But I had a plan to shorten that. The plan was fairly simple. I shared some green powder with him by upgrading the Quick Forge ability, and it really got him going. He no longer needed to sleep, and it would only take him 1 day and 18 hours, which was actually perfect because it was Christmas Eve and I was going to be gone for almost 2 days to visit my grandparents anyways. Once I got back, I collected the drill, put the new gemstones in it, and finally had a beautiful Divan's drill. Now, I'm sure you're wondering whether or not it's worth getting, so I tested it out for the next week, and this is what I was able to come up with. If you like spending billions of coins on minimal increases of efficiency, this drill is definitely for you. Before getting it, I was able to make 29 to 30 million coins an hour using a 655. After getting it, that number jumped from between 34 and 37 million coins an hour, or an average increase of roughly 4 million coins an hour. When we take into account the billion coins spent for the upgrade, it means that for it to pay itself back, you would have to mine gemstones for another 250 or so hours. If you're going for a ranked position in collection or plan to mine for that much longer, again, get it. But if you want to realistically get the most bang for your buck, stick with a 655. Now, if you really want it, don't let me keep you from reaching your goals, as it might make a more significant increase for you than it did for me. All in all, it was nice to have and it's really fun to use, so I won't be selling it anytime soon. I mean, being able to make 37 million coins an hour is way more overpowered than any money-making method should ever be, but I can't say I don't like it. Actually, I love it.
Perfect.